our live Inauguration Day coverage. I'm Zinklea Samoa, correspondent at NowThis News. Kamala Harris was just sworn in as vice president, making history as the first woman, first Black American, and first Asian American in the role. Joining me today is Cecile Richards, gender equality activist and former president of Planned Parenthood. Richards praised women in November for turning out to vote and electing Harris to break the glass ceiling. Thank you so much for being here with us, Cecile.
Absolutely. What a day.
Truly, what a day. And I know that you were just watching the inauguration. I saw that you tweeted that you were crying tears of joy. What does this moment mean to you? How are you feeling?
I mean, of course, everyone's crying. I think it's just a feeling of enormous relief, but also such pride. Pride in certainly in now President Biden and Vice President Harris, but also just pride in what people did, particularly women, particularly Black women, women of color in this country, to really change the course of America. And I felt that came through today. Just an incredible ceremony, particularly given everything that's happened, not just the last 2 weeks, but in the last 4 years. And I thought that the wonderful thing is I was already expecting it to be moving, but to have Amanda Gorman be the closing speaker, the bookend, to me was just the perfect demonstration of the difference that this election will make in the lives of millions of young people in this country.
Yeah, and I know her poetry really inspired a lot of people, her being a young Black woman and what that symbolizes. I think you touched on that perfectly. And, you know, we published an image online, actually, of all of the past 48 vice presidents. And it's pretty striking that Kamala is the first woman and woman of color. What does it say that it took this long?
Oh, well, I mean, I think it's just, it speaks volumes, and I do think the imagery is so important. Although I've also seen, interestingly, similar to when President Obama was elected, I've seen so many mothers, in particular, tweeting that having their daughters and sons watch this inauguration tells them that they have a totally different idea of what a vice president looks like than any other generation that came before. And of course, as Kamala has said herself so many times, her mother raised her not to be, maybe to be the first, but never to be the last. And to me, that's sort of the entire premise of all of this, is that this isn't a unique and individual event. This is actually a sign of things to come. The only other thing I was so struck by now President Biden, I'm going to have to change my language, right? But President Biden's inaugural address is that he talked about and mentioned white supremacy. And I just happened to see on the news, it's the first time this has ever happened in any inaugural address in our entire history. And to me, that is also important, that we are electing a president and vice president who not only are different, but who actually understand that this is a time to, yes, bring the country together, but also address, the sins of our past.
Absolutely. And I think this administration is definitely coming into power at a time of extreme divisiveness. And, we're just off the heels of the Capitol riot on January 6th. What new perspective do you think, both Biden and Harris, but I'm thinking specifically of Harris, what new perspective do you think she's going to get to bring to the executive branch?
Well, of course, she comes in probably, I don't want to overstate it, but at least as qualified as any person who's ever become vice president. I mean, she herself has such a long history in public service, and also her expertise in the United States Senate as Attorney General. So the exciting thing to me is this is not an on-the-job training kind of situation. Kamala Harris, and clearly with such a closely divided Senate, her role over the Senate is going to be absolutely critical. And to me, she brings with it not only her own experience as a child of immigrants, of a multiracial background, as a woman, as a family that sort of represents the beauty of the diversity of this country. All of those perspectives, I believe that Vice President Harris brings as now the highest ranking woman ever in the history of the United States.
Yes, and I'm glad you highlighted two things. One, the fact that I think a lot of times when we talk about the firsts, we can forget that these people are also incredibly qualified, right? Kamala has served in the Senate.
Right.
She has earned her spot in this position. But also you referenced her family, and we know that she comes from a family of immigrants. Her parents met through civil rights movements, and we've seen that activism is very formative in how she does her work. How might that change her approach to policy, and what do you hope to see as someone who's done a lot of advocacy as well?
Well, I think the way it changes is because she got there not by getting along and going along. She got to where she is by fighting every step of the way for the things that she believed in. I mean, we know she was ahead of this country on LGBTQ rights. She was certainly ahead of on so many criminal justice issues. And so the thing that is great about Kamala Harris is she doesn't owe anyone anything. She is now poised to lead and lead in partnership. I mean, it's important that, and certainly President Biden has said this, much in the way that he was a partner to then President Obama. This is a partnership, and that she will be the last person in the room when decisions are made. My expectations, I think, are the same as everyone else in this country. It's not only time to draw the country together again, it's trying to address the profound disruption and pain and suffering that has occurred not only through this pandemic. I mean, the complete disruption for women with low incomes, working women, women of color who have borne the brunt of this pandemic, as well as the lack of addressing racial injustice and violence to Black people in this country. Kamala Harris will be in the room. And that, to me, says so much. And in addition, again, I just can't say enough about how much she is inspiring. We're now seeing a record number of women, of young people of color running for office. And to me, Kamala Harris is showing every one of them that they, too, can be vice president and president of the United States.
Yeah, we can't understate the significance that representation has on the next generation. I am mindful, I've spoken with a lot of progressive groups and activists, and they say, just because we have a Democratic or progressive-leaning administration does not mean the progressive policy agenda will be instantly passed. And so what do you hope, especially considering, that Biden is known as a pretty moderate Democrat, what needs to be pushed forward? What do you hope that they don't stay down on?
Well, look, I think that I remember back when President Obama was elected, too, and some people thought, well, this is just going to be it's going to be the panacea. Everything's going to happen. And he said himself, I remember very clearly, right at his inauguration, he said to all of the progressives, don't just expect me to do the right thing, make me do the right thing. And I do think that as organizers, for all of us, this is a moment to say what we expect and then fight for it, because it's going to take not only the power in the White House and now, of course, the United States Senate and Congress, but it's going to take the grassroots power. To me, this is absolutely, we have to address racial injustice in this country. We have to address the pandemic. That's clear. But if we don't get to the heart of economic injustice in America, it is going to be hard to have the kind of democracy we truly need. And I really hope that this administration looks at the people who have been most affected by this pandemic. Again, this is working women, these are caregivers, healthcare workers, public school teachers, primarily women of color. We need a Women's Recovery Act. We need to address the folks who have really borne the brunt of this. And to me, gender equality has to be part of what we do going forward. And I think we can, and I think we will.
Yeah, and I'm glad you highlighted this idea that democracy really is a team sport. We need all people and all groups participating. We've talked about the legislative branch and the executive branch, but I'm mindful that Kamala was sworn in by Justice Sonia Sotomayor. She's the first Latinx justice on the Supreme Court, and obviously the now conservative-leaning court has been center stage when it comes to issues of reproductive rights. What do you hope from the Biden administration? We've heard that he's considering a bipartisan committee to look at the makeup of the court presently in the realm and world of reproductive rights and gender justice. What do you hope the Biden administration does?
Well, absolutely, we have to look at the imbalance in the federal judiciary now on the Supreme Court. And of course, as we know, one of the few things that Donald Trump did as president is completely remade the judiciary with, of course, the full support of Mitch McConnell. And these are lifetime appointments. This has impact far beyond this administration. I would say, I mean, certainly reproductive rights are at risk. We know that. We just saw a decision by the court or an opinion by the court that further undermined reproductive access. But it's not just that, it's voting rights. Until we actually address our electoral system, so that in the words of the great Stacey Abrams, that not only that everyone can vote, but that every vote is counted. We have a Supreme Court that has ruled against voting rights, and that has undermined our ability to have a true democracy. So I feel like that we need change in the judicial system, but we also know as activists, we can't rely on the judicial system alone to save us. We have to organize at the grassroots level to demand change and really, frankly, impact the kinds of decisions that are going to be made at the Supreme Court and throughout the federal system.
Absolutely. Well, wrapping up, we started talking about how this has been an emotional day for you. How are you going to be taking care in this season, but also how are people in your realm, in the gender equity and advocacy realm, taking care and looking forward, especially as I consider, Biden, even in the Obama administration, championed the It's On Us campaign, which was combating sexual assault and harassment on college campuses. So how are you feeling? Do you have hope? Are you worried? Are you still crying? What are you feeling?
Yes, I was texting with my daughter who's in Africa, who was staying up watching this, and we're all crying, all my kids. I mean, everyone. I think this is a day of enormous emotion and relief and optimism. But again, the long march of history is, and as the late great John Lewis would tell us, you have to be willing to make trouble and to make good trouble. This administration, like any other, is going to be balancing a number of different constituencies. And so I think it's incredibly important that none of us take our foot off the gas, that all of the incredible organizing that happened really over the last 4 years to bring us to this day. This was not an election that happened this year. It happened over the last 4 years. And all the organizing and energy that we have collectively put into fighting for the country we believe in, this is no time to stand back. I'm incredibly optimistic. I feel like the door has opened finally, and issues that for a long time have been shoved to the side are now out in the daylight. So I'm excited, but today I think everyone should just take a breath, put on your pearls, celebrate, and then we go back to work.
Yeah, I think that's a powerful note to end on. And you highlighted the point that, every inauguration is a culmination of 4 years of work and effort and energy. But this inauguration in particular is quite notable. So thank you, Cecile, for offering us your insights and your time.
Great to see you. Thank you so much.
Yes, and thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Always great to speak with you, Cecile. We hope you'll continue listening and watching our coverage of the inauguration as we dive into the context, history, and the big moments of the day. Again, I'm Zinklea Samwal with NowThis, and we'll see you soon.